The Chiefs and the Bucks, they're all the rage, and we're going to talk about where they fall in our power rankings here. George Chahrouri, Eric Eager alongside, brought to you, of course, by mybookie.ag. It's the perfect place to take all of the information that you get here and put it to good use. MyBookie.ag has all the bets you could possibly want. They offer in-game live betting. They have great customer service. We both use them. We love them. So use promo code PFF. Head to mybookie.ag. That'll get you a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit. PFF plus MyBookie. You play, you win, you get paid. All right, let's start at the bottom. 32 through 21. A lot of teams who have been disappointing this year, but many who came into the season with high expectations. The first one that comes to mind is one that we liked much less than the rest of the universe, it seemed, and that is the Houston Texans.
Yeah, so we had their under 8.5 win total coming in because, again, Deshaun Watson, who I think everybody was putting their faith in, graded probably worse than his statistics suggested, and through 2 weeks that has seemed to come to fruition in losses to New England and the Blaine Gabbert-led Tennessee Titans.
The other team that had a lot of hype because of Saquon Barkley and the taking of the next step that Eli Manning was surely going to make this year were the Giants. And we had the Giants with the lowest probability of making the playoffs this season, and they come in, obviously, at number 30. And I think we saw why in Dallas. They could not throw the ball down the field. Eli Manning was not very good, as he has been for the past 4 seasons. And Odell Beckham, as good as he is, the wide receiver position is only able to impact the game so much, and I think that is now finally starting to settle into people's minds. The last one I want to talk about is a team that we were a little higher on than most going into the season, and that's the Seattle Seahawks. They're now in 21. I think that's actually still probably a lot higher than most would have them.
Yeah, and we thought that the coaching change at the offensive coordinator spot would be a little bit of a regression because Darrell Bevell was not particularly good a season ago. It doesn't seem like that has been the case. They've struggled offensively, being efficient running the ball and then protecting their quarterback, which is a recipe for disaster when your defense has lost so many key playmakers either through injury or free agency or trades.
Being subpar at all positions is bad. Let's move to 20 through 11. My poor 49ers down there in 20th. We won't belabor them. We've talked a lot about them. There are a couple of teams that are surprising here in the middle, and the one that sticks out is the Tampa Bay Bucks. So here's the question. They have been lights out. Maybe the best offense in the NFL, with all due respect to the Chiefs. So why are they still in the middle of the pack?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much uncertainty at the quarterback position. We're seeing the high end of variance with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Their defense is still going to struggle, right? Brent Grimes has been slow with injuries. Vernon Hargreaves is on IR. They're strong up front, but they can't cover. So that's going to be an issue for them, I think, moving forward. Then there's always the uncertainty. When do they change back to Jameis Winston? How good is he when he returns? I think you could foresee some of their success in the passing game, but it hasn't been enough for them historically. When that regresses a little bit, do they regress as a team?
The second team that really comes and jumps out at me is the Chicago Bears. And the reason they jump out is that, look, they got Khalil Mack, and he's great. And he's played fantastically, even adjusting for the Seattle Seahawks offensive line, which is, well, shall we say, barely there. But the Bears are sitting in the middle of the pack still, and that's, I think, representative of where we projected they would be, even with Khalil Mack, right? It still comes down to the quarterback position. Their offense has not been great. Mitch Trubisky has not been great, and that's why they sit still third in their division, in the middle of the pack overall in the league. Let's fast forward now to the top 10, and this has a lot of movement going on. We're early in the season, a lot of teams playing either really well or really poorly relative to expectations. And the two teams that met last week and basically swapped spots are the Steelers and the Chiefs. The Chiefs going from 8 up to 5, and the Steelers going from 5 down to 9. So, are we giving the Chiefs too much credit for what they've done so far?
Yeah, so last week the big narrative was that the Chiefs' defense was worse than the Steelers' defense, and so both offenses were strong, so we would give the edge to the Steelers, and I think that was actually reversed. The Steelers' defense was every bit one of the worst units in the league last week, and hence they don't have a win so far. Kansas City's offense has been terrific, and their defense is doing just enough, barely enough, and I think that if that continues, the Chiefs will probably be one of the better teams in the NFL now that their schedule sort of eases a little bit.
The incredible thing about Mahomes' play is that there's not a lot of flukiness to it, right? Now, obviously, the sample size is small, so things could regress, but what I mean by that is, look, he's making great throws. He's not making a lot of bad throws. He's throwing the ball an average of about 13 yards downfield, which is very, very high. And he hasn't made a turnover-worthy throw yet. So the combination of those two is lethal, and with Andy Reid there, 5 might be the floor for them if that continues. But let's pump the brakes a little bit because the sample size is pretty small. Let's look at another team here, the Patriots. So the Patriots just got, for lack of a better word, thumped by the Jacksonville Jaguars and Blake Bortles. So why are they still 2?
Yeah, and we got this a lot last year when the New England Patriots started 2-2. They didn't even look particularly good in their wins either. And why are they still a top team? Why are they still in the top 5 even? And again, as the season progresses, some of the things start to come to fruition that we believe about the Patriots. So in this particular case, they are still 2. Their rating dropped, but not enough to get them to 3, 4, or 5. I think we still believe in the fact that they have the goods at the right positions, obviously with Brady and then their head coach with Belichick. Defense did look pretty poor against Jacksonville, but we hope that regresses.
The top 2 just solidify the don't overreact to the first 2 weeks of the season. The Eagles are getting Carson Wentz back. We've seen what they were last season. That plays into this. We know they're still a good team, and that's why they're still number 1. And the Patriots are still a good team, and they are still number 2 for a good reason. Let's talk about a team who, man, I feel like people are pretty worried about. That's the Atlanta Falcons because of all the injuries. But what I think we're seeing with the Falcons is that strong play at the quarterback position, smart decision making, that can override some of those injuries at the ancillary positions.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday on the YouTube channel. We had the Falcons starting to make good decisions on 4th down in the red zone. Last week they were efficient in the red zone, going 4 for 4 on touchdowns. Matt Ryan is still their quarterback, and so whatever happens at their left guard position is not going to worry me as much as he makes me confident in them. So their defense still has a strong secondary. They still cover pretty well, and that carried them in not only winning but covering against the Carolina Panthers last week.
If Calvin Ridley can become an option there, we saw him on that slant post route there in the red zone. Austin Hooper getting him involved.
For him.
All those little things in the red zone that can make a huge difference, and that is where a lot of things can change, right? Going from scoring 0 to 7, big difference. So even though they're at 4 now, I think people probably feel that's a little high. I think that's right where they should be. Matt Ryan and Drew Brees are tied for second, I should say, in wins above replacement over the last 2 in a couple weeks. So I think that's perfectly fair. Let me ask you this. We'll close out here. One team in the top 10, but not in the top 5, who's making a jump next week.
I think it's got to be the Minnesota Vikings, right? They play a Buffalo Bills team that's going to be very vulnerable, let's say, and the Vikings are at home where they've been very successful over the past few years. I think they make a jump here, especially given the fact that Atlanta and New Orleans play each other this week. One of those teams is probably going to lose, although we've seen a lot of ties so far. But I do think Minnesota makes that jump, and then Minnesota plays the Los Angeles Rams next Thursday. That's going to be a really great game between presumably 2 top 10 teams in our rating system.
Let's pump the brakes. We're only on week 3. Never look ahead. For more, check out ProFootballFocus.com, and of course, listen to the Pro Football Focus Forecast. It's where you can hear us give you all the information you need, and of course, head to mybookie.ag to put that all to good use.